everyone. Today I have an important guest with me, a Ryerson student, Lachey Whitman, and she lives here in Ontario. And we're going to discuss a couple things. First off, there's been a lot of talk about social activism in the media and on social media. And with the recent election, it feels like we lost the battle. We lost to racism, we lost to homophobia, we lost to sexism, and overall oppression. And we're just going to take a quick look into race and the media, and how the media covers race and reflects racist views. Alright, so welcome to Lachey.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Not a problem. So, when I was younger, I always got the famous question, what do you want to be when you grow up? So first I started off saying I wanted to be a hairdresser because I didn't know how to handle my hair. Then my mom got me a cat, and magically I wanted to be a veterinarian. But then I'm like, I don't want to see dead animals. So then I read books a lot, I wanted to be a writer. Then I just wanted to be a boss and have a lot of money. Later on I wanted to be a financial advisor, and a marketing executive, and the list goes on. But no matter what my answer was, my mom always told me that I could be whatever I wanted to be. That I had the opportunity to be whatever I wanted to be. And I always believed her. I had no reason to doubt her. As I got older, I believe it is true. I believe that if you work hard, that it's possible. But it's not always the case. Some people work very hard and they're not faced with the same opportunities as others. So that's my little story. What did you tell your parents you wanted to be when you grew up?
When I was 9, I remember I had a very clear idea. I wanted to be the president.
Do you ever think that your race or your gender will get in the way of that? Will affect you becoming a public relations specialist?
I really hope not. And I've always felt very lucky to be born into a time and place where we seem to have reached this level of like acceptance and appreciation and really looking at people beyond the color of their skin or the texture of their hair or the shape of their nose, and looking at what people have to offer.
And this is what everyone hopes for, but lately we see that we are still fighting this battle with stereotyping. For many people, racism affects their daily lives, and whether it be they can't get just a job because of the color of their skin. And as long as we can remember, people of color have been depicted a certain way in the media. They're often depicted as the criminal, and this affects everyone's view on them. Did you ever feel like you were judged by the color of your skin? Have you ever felt like the way the media portrayed people of color, it affected you? And have you ever been in a situation where you felt people projected these stereotypes onto you?
Yeah. I'm very lucky to say I haven't experienced it many times, but the few times I have been very distinct. Definitely had an impact on me. I remember when I was 15, I went to a camera repair store because my camera had broken and I was looking to repair it. And so the neighborhood I was in was predominantly white, and the shopping center I guess was predominantly white. And I came into the store and like rang the bell because there was no one at the desk. And I heard the lady in the bathroom in the back of the store. She went, "Oh, coming, I'll be right there." And she came out from the back of the store, and it was in the minute that she saw me, her entire demeanor changed. And without even looking at the camera, she told me that they wouldn't be able to fix it, and that I had to go to another store. So I asked her, I was like, "Which store?" And then she said, "Oh, the store on the other side."
How did that make you feel? Since you're not used to being judged.
I was just angry. It just made me feel angry. I just, yeah. And in hindsight, I realized like because it was a predominantly white area, they probably wanted to keep it that way. I realized she probably saw a black person and probably thought that I wouldn't have the money or the resources to pay for the service. And yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this happens often. People of color get followed in stores. They get looked at weirdly on the street when they're in certain areas. I'm gonna read you a quote from an article called "Missing and Murdered Women." It reads, "When black women are victims of crime, their stories rarely make it to the front page. They are confined to the back pages or omitted from mention altogether. Yet when black men are perpetrators of crime, their stories splash the front page of the news." What do you think about this quote? Do you think it's true? When you see a black man in the media, do you find it's mostly negative?
Yes, 100%. I mean, if you watch the news, if you watch any TV show, any movie, like so frequently, the pimp, the drug dealer, the murderer, the rapist, the burglar, it's a black guy. It's a black man. And for so many people, like, that's their only exposure to black people or to black culture, is what they see on the news, what they see portrayed in the media. And of course that shapes how they view this racial group. And I think that in our society today, black women are the most unprotected group of individuals that we have.
And do you find there's a difference between what you see on social media about people of color and traditional media like the news?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. In social media, it's this platform where both sides of the spectrum have a voice, where both sides have supporters and can express their honest opinions and intentions and thoughts and views. Whereas the media, the news, like CNN, BBC, whatever the case may be, it's one-sided. And they voice and they use this huge platform that they have to project all of their own views and opinions, which benefit solely them.
Yeah.
And they can say pretty much whatever they want.
Yeah. And they continue to get ratings, they continue to get viewers, and
that's
they sell these stories about they make crimes look like crimes are solely committed by people of color, or if a person of color does commit the crime, they exaggerate it to a degree where this person will never be able to show their face anywhere. So why do you think there's such a difference between what you see on social media and what you see on the news?
Well, like movements like Black Lives Matter, it's so popular on social media because everyone has an opportunity to express what they're feeling and saying, and they're able to find communities that support their same values and views. Whereas, like the news, they have different motives. They have to speak to a different demographic. They have to keep in mind the ratings, the views, like what people are going to say about them, and that's their honest motive. It's a business.
I completely agree with you. Can you think of any time you saw black people being negatively portrayed on the news?
I actually read an article in one of my classes called Reading and Writing Disability Differently that mentioned when the article was covering Hurricane Katrina, and it actually said like black people were described as looting, while white people were described as securing provisions. Looting versus
and it's the whole city was affected by this. It's not a race thing.
Yeah, everyone, no matter what your race is, was affected by the hurricane.
So I agree with you. And now I'm so thankful for social media because when I scroll through my timeline, I see people fighting back. I see a lot of activism against news headlines and articles. I see people pointing out racism, and this goes viral, and there's so many people agreeing with it that I find it's making newscasts and editors watch what they're going to say, because they don't want to be seen as the bad guys, especially this time in the world. Everyone's trying to progress.
That is so true. Social media really does give us a platform to fight back and to express both sides of the story. Absolutely. This quote from an article called Black Lives Matter, a commentary on racism and public health, states that the media's disproportionate focus on cases involving men, intersectional analysis demonstrate that racialized police violence and misconduct are inflicted upon women and transgender persons of color as well. So as we mentioned before, we see black men in the media as criminals. But when the black man is the victim, so often the story is covered only men. It hasn't covered women or transgendered people. This brings us into a whole other issue of intersectionality. Women and transgender people are also victims. But why aren't these stories covered? How do you think the media can balance that and show violence against women as well as transgender people?
Now we get back to the topic of social media, and we see social media doing this a lot, like Sandra Bland. We wouldn't hear the story on the news unless people weren't standing up for it on social media. So, we just have to get it out there one way or another. Don't let the news be the only stories you hear. If you want to know what's going on in the world, check other places. And eventually, we'll push it to the point where this will be as important. This will be seen on the news as well. I know we touched up on a lot of different hard topics, but the point of this video, this interview, was to just get talking on these issues of this misrepresentation in the media, on what we can do about it, on what we see being done about it, on what else has to be covered. And to tie it all together, the reason I wanted to touch on this subject was because I want to be able to tell my kids that they can actually be whatever they want and nothing can get in the way. And I think if we change the narrative of people of color in the media, they'll have a higher chance of being the person they want to be.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here with me, having this discussion. I know we didn't get too deep into it, but bring it back to your friends, discuss it, do something about it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.